Good evening, and welcome to Let's Talk with Lakshmi, a show about us, our people, our community, our culture, our experiences. And guys, it's a pleasure and an honor to be sitting with the executive and artistic director of the Rajkumari Cultural Center, Pritha Singh. Pritha, welcome to Let's Talk with Lakshmi. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for the show because we believe in the same thing.
Yes, we do.
Which is, it's about we.
It's about we.
It's about we, yes, definitely.
Well, Pritha, it's really exciting to have you here. I know you're doing tremendous, excellent work in our community. I mean, you've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people know about the Rajkumari Cultural Group and what you guys have been doing in the community. But I would say we've been seeing a lot more of you within the past 2-3 years. So tell our viewers a little bit about the Rajkumari Cultural Center.
Okay. Well, the Rajkumari Center has been bringing cultural and arts services to the Indo-Caribbean community and to the broader New York society for the last 16 years.
Wow, 16
years,
years,
We're going into
okay.
our 17th year. The center was founded by the late Kathak exponent and an activist, Gora Singh. And he formed it with the notion that after the huge wave of Indo-Caribbean people that landed in the 70s and the Richmond Hill community began to be built, that it was important to establish an institution for our cultural arts, especially our heritage, which over years became fractured because of all the migration from Guyana, Trinidad, Suriname, and Jamaica, and wherever we came from. But it's important for every community to have institutions. If you look at other ethnic communities, they all have, you know, different institutions, right?
Right.
And this is important for us.
Of
and
course.
so, in a lot of ways, I joined him. I joined him because in Guyana, we grew up in the arts.
Right.
In fact, I would say that I grew up in the backstage of the Theatre Guild. But on the weekends, you know, our mother, who was Rajkumari Singh, for whom the center is named after as the first Indo-Caribbean woman writer, she used to take us into the country to all the different diverse cultural folk traditions that took place on the in the villages and plantations and things like this. But although we saw all these things and experienced it, we still remained observers. We never lived it.
Back then in Guyana?
In Guyana,
Okay.
yes.
Now, I know a lot of people know Rajkumari Singh,
Yeah.
famous name in
Okay.
theater. Gora Singh was your brother,
Yes.
rest his soul. Now, you mentioned that in Guyana, even though your family was in the theater, you took the back step and you were just observing. Now, that's very interesting because you do a lot here. So explain the transition from you taking a seat back into what you're doing now.
Well, I mean, there was one point in the 1960s when my mother was politically involved and we had to abandon Georgetown and go to live in Grove. Okay. And we lived in Grove for about 6 years. And while we were in Grove is where we really discovered what it means to be Indian.
Okay.
And we would go to weddings and we would go to 9-day, 9-day Muran and all these things. And we discovered things like Biraha. What's that other thing they do with the drums? All the unique things. We learned how to dig for crabs, put our hand all up in the mud and pull it out, how to scoop up cow dung, go and dab. And we learned
because you were a city girl, now you're coming to
right.
East Bank and having to learn all these rural
things. And then during Diwali, we would, for a whole month, all we did was make diyas and dry it in the sun, right? And so, it was very enriching, and it is not until that, and then of course, we came to New York and we going to school and we wanted to do this and we wanted to do that, and somehow the village life of our ancestors, right, seemed to get further and further away. And then over time, I became a poet and a writer and a dramatist. I studied in England and New York, and then I'm in Manhattan doing my poetry with all my, cool friends. And then one day I just was doing a gig, and we were in the East Village, and when I looked out, there were a whole bunch of us. There were some guys, very famous poets I brought in from Jamaica, Guyana, Mark Matthews, and all these guys. And we were all there as Caribbean
artists.
Right.
And
I looked out at the audience, and none of our people were there.
Your community wasn't
My
there.
community, nobody was there except us. And I'm like, what am I doing here?
Okay.
In the meantime, Gora was still,
Dancing?
he was still up in Richmond Hill fighting up with the Indo-Caribbean community.
Okay.
Right? But I mean, it was like a epiphany, I guess you could call it. And so I began, the hunger for my people began, right?
Okay.
And then little by little I came into the community. I went to the temples. I would go down in the basement and talk to the ladies after puja. And I would hear their language and their rhythm and their speaking and their idiom and everything, you know, and their metaphors. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. It took me some time for my ears to get trained for the sound. And then when Gore passed away in 1997, I took over the Rajkumari Center.
Okay.
I took over the Rajkumari Center, and the first big project I did, you know, we used to teach dance and I used to teach theater, but the first big assignment I had was the Kittery Festival.
Okay. Now, a lot of people hear about Kittery, and
Yeah.
I know people at home are looking at you like, what is she talking about, Kittery? Is that dal and rice? I make that every day, right, guys? Well, it's not the dal and rice that you make at home. Pritha, tell us a little bit about Kittery.
Well, actually, in a way, Kittery is a dish.
Right.
It's a dish of dal and rice.
Right.
And if you have enough money, you put in a few other little things. And it's what we eat. It's our communal thing, right? It's our food.
Right.
I mean, we could live with that, right?
Of course.
And we did.
Yes.
And so, although in Trinidad they say it's when you drunk the dal and the rice in dal, right? But so
soup.
basically, this means a lot to us. We use this Kittery ceremonially also. If you think about the wedding, we have the Kittery ceremony, where the father of the bride brings the bowl of Kittery to the groom to eat, and he doesn't eat it until he receives the gifts. You know,
Right.
in the old days they used to bring chickens and sheep and goat and all kind of things, right? But then later on it became money and it became property and all these things, right? And if the groom didn't eat the Kittery, the wedding was not consummated.
Okay.
So this also happened. It happened to my aunt, right? So I like the idea.
Your aunt's groom didn't
My
eat the
my
dal?
mother's aunt, right?
Okay.
My nana's only sister. There were
Okay.
9 brothers and 1 sister. And on the day of her wedding, she's the only daughter. The groom did not eat the Kittery.
So what happened?
So they kicked him out. But unfortunately, they had already got married, right?
Okay.
Anyway, he came back and he was, apparently his advisors, you know, he has all these people that come with him and say, don't eat the Kittery, ask for the Buick, ask for the house, ask for this, right? And then my mother's eldest brother said, this is an insult to my aunt, right? Get him out of here.
Oh, no.
And then he came back the next day and he begged and he got on his knees and he cried, but you know,
Did he eat the dal and rice then?
no,
Ay,
she
ay,
would
ay.
not go because of the family pride, right?
Okay.
But you know, but in some places, you know, there's a lot of chopping up happen and fight and cutlass comes out and things like this.
Uh-huh.
But you know, everything about our culture is like a great story, and that's what I loved about it, because essentially I'm a storyteller.
Right.
Essentially I'm a storyteller. We grew up in Guyana, and you know we didn't have television. So we'd sit on the stoop, especially like in Grove and stuff, and talk jumpy stories and tell stories of Nancy stories. And being a storyteller is really critical to us as a people, you know. And so it was a great opportunity to me. You know, it's kind of interesting because it came at the right time when I was ready to reclaim my heritage and my ancestry, right? And I don't see it as going back into Indianness, right?
Okay.
But as my brother Karna, who, as you know, is a cultural historian, and he has been very instrumental in guiding and forming us emotionally and mentally and artistically for the job, right? And he always said, what we're doing at the Rajkumari Center, these are his words, is we are reclaiming the Indian heart. Because we
Reclaiming
became
the Indian identity, okay.
But you know, we have a lot of identities also. It's not just that Indian is just one of the identities. We have our kids are Americans, you know
But
what I'm
they're
saying?
still Indian.
And some are mixed with different races, right?
Right.
But the Indian heart is a very special heart. So this is really the MacGuffin. This is the thing we're after. This thing we're in search of, right? And this is the thing, you know, we want to bring up. And this is why we do this work. And this is where Kittery now becomes a space within the Rajkumari Center, where we bring in elders and we bring in young masters of the music, right? And all the various traditions and the drum culture and all these things. And the ritual culture, because all our art is tied into ritual practices. So what we do at the Rajkumari Center is we take it out of the sacred spaces, right? And we, you know, we turn it over and over and look at it from every which way and then find the best way and the most fitting way with respect and with dignity and honor to present this to the world. And
At your Kittery event.
And that's what Kittery is.
Okay. So when is the next Kittery?
Okay, so the next Kittery, the next Kittery is, which is the 14th Kittery, by the way.
14th Kittery.
14 years we've had it, yes.
Well, I have to say, one of my first major stage productions was a Kittery production.
Exactly.
It was Till I Dance with My People.
Yes.
It was your production. It was written by your niece.
Yes,
Sharda Singh, talented girl. Sharda Shakti Singh, power. And I acted across Mahadeo Shivraj.
You were Mahadeo Shivraj's daughter.
Daughter, yeah. You were my grandmother.
And I played your grandmother, right?
My dead grandmother.
Your dead grandmother that came alive.
So that was, God knows how many years ago. But that was one of my very first stage productions. Major stage productions, I have to say.
I mean, I think Kittery was really a great, is a space. Like, you know, it's this space. Some people say, what's a space? It's this space, this environment. It's a world we've created where we can bring all these elements together. You know, we can really have it all. This is my philosophy, and should. So we have all these elders who are forgotten. You know, why forget the elders? They're the ones with the gold, right?
Right.
So we bring them in, and then we have young masters, and then we have dancers, and we have professionals, and we have students, and we have amateurs, and then we have actors, and we have poets, and we have writers, choreographers, and I became a playwright through Kittery.
Okay.
You know, I dabbled in playwriting, but
Yes,
the
I know,
real
of course.
playwriting skill I developed just right there.